more important than what we do is showing folks or trying to be with folks and to show them that somebody cares. That's much more important than the can of food. Because a can of food will be gone soon, but that someone cares is what we all need, all of us.
Fantastic. Let's go ahead and get started. Arnie, I wanted to just do a quick introduction. I had the pleasure of meeting Arnie when I visited McDowell County, and I was there on a food drive. I had the pleasure of meeting Arnie through Father Tony, and we had lunch in McDowell County with Kathy, and we just had a brilliant conversation. And that was about 2 years ago. And since then, so much has happened. I mean, the pandemic and so much that we need to catch up on. Arnie, first of all, I want to just say thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time, sir. How are you doing? How's everything for you over there?
I appreciate you asking me to be here. As I say to people, I'm an outsider. I came here 20 years ago, so got to take what I say with a grain of salt. But the reality is, I love to talk about this area because it's as everyone knows, it's filled with beautiful mountains, but it's also filled with beautiful people. And the culture here is wonderful. It's warm and it's personal. There's no better place to live. It's just that we have a few problems. And the problems, are deep-rooted because this area has always been considered a coal-producing area, these counties in southern West Virginia. And that's fine. That was fine when coal was booming 50 years ago, 100 years ago. But coal, as everyone realizes, is being used less and less. And so mining of coal down here has dropped quite dramatically, actually. And the result of this is not only loss of jobs, but out-migration. Anyone with an education and a skill is, of course, looking for jobs. And there simply are no jobs. There are very few jobs down here. So they leave the area. And McDowell County, unfortunately, is one of the poorest counties in the United States. And it's certainly the poorest county in West Virginia. And the reason is it went from boom, where with 100,000 people fully employed with the mines, and I realize there may be some issues with mine safety and control and things of that. That's political. I'd not like to get into that. But they needed jobs. So booming McDowell County with 100,000 people, all of a sudden, over the years, has reduced the population to 22,000. So everyone with an education and a skill has left. And as I like to say to people, we've lost our entire middle class. And without the middle class, your community is really suffering because they're the ones that really develop the community. Our county, which is right above McDowell, Wyoming County, had 50,000 people and is now down to 24,000. Same reason, same result. So beautiful area, beautiful people, but unfortunately more poverty than we like to see anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Arnie, what do you think is needed to bring the jobs back? I mean, coal is obviously nowadays not in demand for various reasons. Have you come across any kind of potential ideas that could bring back the jobs?
I'm not at all involved in economic development, so I don't know, and that's not my field, and I would be overstepping, I think, to talk about that, other than in generalities, which is yes, we need a new industry. Coal is not coming back to where it was, so we need a new industry. But there's a couple things that work against that. One of the things that work against that is we're kind of isolated down here. This is not exactly on the main road.
Right.
This is not exactly, the main line. And so, and the second problem, which perhaps is more severe, is we've lost our working population. They've all left the state for jobs. So we have two issues. First is we need an industry that will provide and create jobs. But secondly, we have to find workers because those with skills have left.
Mhm.
So I understand the problem, and that's why I stay out of it, because it's beyond my helping. Our work down here for the past 20 years is just basically trying to alleviate some of the problems that poverty has dumped on these poor people who now struggle with it. And again, not everyone's poor, like every place, uh, but there's an excess of poor people here, more than there should be, and there shouldn't be any anywhere, but we know there is. Uh, and our job is to try to make life a little nicer, a little more comfortable.
Is
Uh,
that Arnie? Is that why you moved down there 20 years ago?
we moved down here, well, actually, it's 21 years now. The years fly by. We were involved with a volunteer program that was from the Catholic Church, run by a group of priests called Passionists. And we came down as year-long volunteers. We raised our family in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., in the Maryland suburbs. And when our youngest went off to college and we had an empty nest, we thought, well, if the kids can go off on adventure, we're going to go off on adventure. So we liked our jobs, we enjoyed our jobs, and that's the time to leave when you still enjoy your job. And so we thought we would come down and work as volunteers in this lovely area. Uh, and we never turned back. We never looked back. We
Wow.
came down here, worked as volunteers for a year or two, and then actually began working with a couple other organizations, a food pantry, kind of a warehouse, a caseworker, things of that nature. Uh, all meant not to solve a problem because it's too big for us to solve, but to help alleviate it a little bit. And more importantly than the food we give out, or the clothing, or the furniture, or the appliances, or the home repair, more important than what we do is showing folks, or trying to be with folks and to show them that somebody cares. That's much more important than the can of food. Because a can of food will be gone soon, but that someone cares is what we all need, all of us. And these folks who are poor and struggling day by day to feed their families, to keep their kids in decent clothes and food, uh, they need to know that someone cares. The reason we stayed here for 20 years is very simple. This is the most wonderful place to live. What more would you want? We left the stress of the Washington area, the busyness and the concern and the expense. We come to an area that, first of all, is beautiful with mountains. And then on top of that, you have a beautiful culture, which is personal and friendly. It's safer down here than other areas. Okay, it's less expensive. Why are other people not living here? I don't understand it. We would live no place else. This was not. We come down here for a year or two, try to help people, and then leave. We knew when we came down here that, barring disaster, we were here for good. Okay. Um, And it's not because we're, oh, these wonderful people. I mean, I tire of hearing, oh, you're so wonderful, that you do this. I do it because I'd like it. And if I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it. So I do what I like. And luckily, we're blessed because we really like it. So we do it.
That's
And
great.
and
And it shows, Arnie. It's
I
great.
hope, I hope. Uh, and we do what we can
So
sometimes.
Arnie, absolutely. So Arnie, jobs is definitely a big challenge in the area. Um, Poverty, as you mentioned, as a result of that. What are some of the other challenges in the area that people are facing?
Well, I think the other, I think jobs, of course, is the answer. The challenge is, of course, is we're not on the main line. When Pittsburgh, for instance, when steel started to fail, and Pittsburgh was a steel town, they developed new industry, but they were able to develop it because they're on the main line. We're kind of down here. We don't have a 4-lane highway coming into our area. So, and it's mountainous roads. I mean, we get used to it, but visitors have a little difficulty with the curves and the ups and the downs. Uh, so that's another problem. But the big problem, I think, is we lack the middle class. I'll say that again. And anyone with an education, practically, or a skill is gone. Okay. So you have the added problem of not only figuring out, oh, what are we going to have as an industry down here? What would fit down here? And again,
Right.
I'm no expert in this, but you got the problem of our workers are gone. I mean, 1 out of 5 people here are over the age of 65. That's double the national average. They're not going to be workers. You have a whole other group that's disabled because of mining and logging. They're not going to be workers. And you have another group that's very uneducated and unskilled. They're going to have difficulty being workers. Okay? So we don't have the industry, and we don't have the people to man the industry. Anyone that wants to come here with a new industry would have to face the reality again of workers. We have, as you know, one of the difficulties we have that is a very serious and sad one, and it's the disease of drug abuse.
Drugs. Right.
Uh, we have many of our younger people who are still here, unfortunately, are involved with drugs. This is and we say, you say that this is a depressed area. It's a depressed area, certainly economically, in many respects. Not completely, but to some extent. Okay. But it's also, I'd like to say, almost a psychologically depressed area. Uh, People have looked for jobs. They've worked all kinds of little jobs. They've worked on their own. They've done things. They've struggled to survive. And still, the struggle goes on and they self medicate because it's tough when you keep trying and you can't get a job. You can't do what you want to do. You can't do what you have to do. That's depression. You tend to become depressed. And what's the result of that? Self medication. I'll take, starting with alcohol usually, to feel better because I've given up. I can't do it anymore. And that leads into drug abuse. And that leads into very serious problems, even death.
So I think, Arnie, you answered my next question. I think what you're saying is that the reason why the drug abuse is so high in the area is because of the poverty.
Oh yes, yes. If we have time, and I could tell you a story. I got a call from a fellow, and he called me and said, "I'm in a trailer, and my roof is leaking, and it's starting to rot the roof out of the trailer." Oh, okay. I said, I'll come look at it because we had volunteers that would come down and help repair for people, who have needed her emergency home repair like that. So I said, I'll come and see what the problem is and how serious it is. Not that I'm an engineer, okay, but do my best at that. So I come in and he's about 35 years old. He's sitting in a chair watching television. Okay. Now, in the corner of the trailer, okay, very wisely, he had a little wood stove. Okay. And the wood stove, of course, has to have a pipe out to go outside. And the pipe went up and went through the ceiling. Now, I looked at that and I could tell already the ceiling was discolored, it's starting to fall down. And the roof itself was starting to suffer. I said, your problem is where the stovepipe goes out to the roof, the caulking around it has dried and dropped out. Your problem is you just need caulking around that pipe. He looked okay. I said, I did. I said, buy you a couple tubes of caulking and you go up there and do it. And when I left his house, I thought to myself, what's the problem? Here's a fellow who's not cognitively disabled. He's not physically disabled that I could tell. Okay. Why doesn't he fix that? And suddenly it occurred to me, the problem is he's depressed. What's the definition of depression? He's given up. He's given up. Why? Because every place he turned, he got turned down. He could not succeed. And he would have sat in that chair and watched the whole roof cave in. Not because he's lazy. Many people say, oh, he's just lazy. No, no, no. Lazy I can deal with. I can be lazy at times. Okay? A lazy person never just sits there and does it. They always give you an excuse. I'm an expert at that. Oh, the computer's down. Oh, I'll get to that. Oh, always lazy people he wasn't giving excuses. He was depressed because he had given up. He couldn't keep battling on, trying to survive. Okay. That's our problem with many of our folks. This is not a fault. I would have given up long before then. Okay. But the doors to their successful life were all closed to them. And they just got tired of pushing against those doors, trying to open them. That's the folks we work with. Okay. So we have a double problem. We have to, if you've given up, you say, what's the use? Why look for a job? I'll never get one. That's a problem to work with. How can we affirm people? How can we affirm that, with success? You and I get affirmed all the time. Oh, a nice job. Oh, oh, you're wonderful. Oh, do this. Here are folks that don't get affirmed. They live in the end of the holler. Okay? They know people look down on them. They know they are considered those people. They know that. Yeah. And where do they get affirmed? Where do they pick up that sense that I can do it? They had that. They had that when they were children. They had that when they were growing up. They had plans. They wanted to do certain things. But for a whole series of reasons, they couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the problem with poverty is more than money. I always say the least problem in poverty is money. The problem is trying to get folks to keep trying against sometimes insurmountable odds. How do we do that? How do we affirm? How do we, when they've had those doors shut in their face for the last 10 years, how do we all of a sudden come along and say, oh, well, you can do this? I mean, maybe you can. If I was in that situation, I could not. And that's, to me, that's the problem. Some of these people, they've been ground down by poverty. Why is it that I grew up in a happy family that was financially secure, that there was no, and these folks grew up perhaps in a family that was nowhere like that because of the stress caused by finances. Okay? Constantly. Can you imagine? Constantly. Every day facing another problem. Today, how am I going to pay the electric bill? It's wintertime, so it's a big bill. Well, I figure, solve that one. Well, how am I going to get the new alternator for my car so I can at least get to a job? How best to help us here? Uh, yes, certainly we could use some funding, but I don't want to push that. That's not what we need most of. What we need most of are people who will come down here like you did, Richard, and share themselves. Not looking down on all these poor people that are poor. We're going to help them. Absolutely not. These folks are rich in many, many ways and have much to give us. So that when I give that can of soup to him, he gives me some beauty from his culture. So it's no longer me just giving him a can of soup. It's me giving him something and him giving me something.
It's almost like a spiritual exchange. It's not even about monetary exchange at that level, right?
That's it perfectly. You say it better than I can say it. It's so taking care of poverty is not us doing all this stuff. Both of us working together. And one way we work together, okay, is sharing each other's story. Because when I take time to listen to you, I'm saying to you, you are valuable to me. I'm a retired university professor. This university professor finds something worthwhile in me. You know, that's what I'm giving you. And that's what you're giving me. Gee, this mountain here, I mean, we're as different as can be. Okay. But he kind of likes me. I mean, I hate to put it so bluntly and so poorly, but and hopefully he's feeling, oh, Arnie kind of is interested in me. What a gift. What a gift to someone who's never affirmed.
Arnie, over the last 21 years, do you feel that the situation is getting better, has gotten better, or is it getting worse? And where do you see this going?
Sad to say, in the last 20 years, things have not improved dramatically for some of the reasons we already discussed. Okay. A one industry town, okay, when the industry starts to falter, out migration, okay. Uh, a sense down here, which is true, that people down here figures no one cares about them. No one cares about them. They look at theirs, even the state, and says, well, the federal government doesn't care about us and the state doesn't care about us because we're just poor coal miners. Okay. So have things improved? I don't think they've gotten worse, but I can't say they've improved uh, because nothing much structurally has changed. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've given out more food, but that's not the change we're looking for. What we're looking for is some of the structure change, some of the system change. I'm thinking of a young man uh, who has a couple small children who he's lost because the social services have removed them from the home. And I always look at him, oh God, what a loser. And one day I sat and talked to him, not as me talking to him, wondering what he was going to do next to get into trouble. Okay. And he was at the food pantry, and not counseling, it's just simply at the food pantry. And for the first time, I talked to him as a person. And I said, how's it going? And all of a sudden, I realized that, yeah, this guy has a lot of problems. No question about that. Caused a lot of trouble. No question about that. But deep down, he's a father trying to get his little children back. I had never seen that in him before because I never took the time to sit and talk with him and listen to his story. All I saw was his troublemaker. Yeah. Uh, and I think that probably did him more good than the box of food he got. I hope it did.
Was he able to get his children back?
Unfortunately, he got them back and lost them again. He's had a rough life for many reasons. Much of it not his own fault. Okay, but the way he was raised with problems.
If somebody was watching this video and they wanted to get in contact with you and get involved and help, how can they learn more about you? How can they find more information about you or contact you?
We're open to anyone that wants information, and as you can tell, I love to talk about it. Not always correctly, but I do my best. Uh, People can contact us anytime. My name is Arnold Simons. We would love to hear from you. I certainly feel free to, if people are serious, you can give them my phone number or email address, and we will be. Again, email is probably the easiest way. I'm still a little old-fashioned, or probably a lot old-fashioned with the telephone. Uh, we would love to hear from you. And again, not yes, we'd love to hear from you about Appalachia, but I'm also trying to be a little broader than that and say, okay, we'd like to hear from you about Cincinnati, okay, Omaha. But feel free to get in touch with us with just questions or comments or suggestions. Uh, just our email is be open to everybody.
Thank you,
We'd
Arnie.
be glad to hear from folks, and uh, I guess what I'm learning is the importance of helping people person to person, and I'm not negating the need for charitable donations. But what I'm
Absolutely.
trying to say constantly these days is uh, meet that person, meet that person who's struggling. And this is no different than talking with a friend who maybe has suffered a miscarriage. Okay, that we all do. Okay, but how about meeting that person that has suffered from poverty? That we don't do so much. And I guarantee you, if you meet them and really talk with them, you will be impressed. And that will be the first step to really helping them.
That's wonderful. Thank
They
you,
want
Arnie.
you. They want you more than that can of soup.
I love that. Thank you, Arnie. What is the legacy that you would like to leave behind, Arnie?
All I want all people say was he's a nice guy. That's all. If I can leave this world and people say, he's a nice guy, he tried to help people. You know, he's a little this or that, but we'll put up with it. He's a nice guy. Okay. I don't need a monument. Kathy and I certainly don't need monuments or structures. It's because there was again, you're going to hear me again. All those structures, that's like the Greek Acropolis and the the pyramids in Egypt. Who needs it? What's important? I contacted with this poor person, and this poor person taught me something, and I just, you know, I was a nice guy with people, even if the people weren't very nice. I was a nice guy who talked to people and tried to help. That's all.
Arnie, I can tell you that you're one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
No, don't say that. I already
I
told
swear,
you.
no, I really, really mean it. I'm not just saying that.
I already told you. I'm selfish. I do what I enjoy, and I enjoy this. And I enjoy it not because I'm able to give extra turkeys out, but I enjoy it because I meet people like with all his problems and get to commiserate with a man who's lost his children. That's all.
Thank you, Arnie. I wish you a blessed day ahead, and we'll be in touch, and we'll continue the conversation.
Okay. Namaste.
Thank you, Arnie. Thank you so much, sir. Have a blessed day.
Take care. Thank you.